Anthony Byrne and his involvement in the Adem Somyurek scandal. I approached Anthony Byrne as he left caucus with Bill Shorten this morning, and he declined to deny he had been involved in or had knowledge of the taping of Adem Somyurek. It appears he did have some involvement, no denial there whatsoever. He pleaded that the matter was subject of IMPACK and police investigation, and that is why he could not answer the question. Well, the Victorian Attorney-General has sent a complaint to IMPACK in Victoria, the corruption body, but only informed police of that complaint. The former Minister, Stephen Conroy, he told Sky News today he'd spoken to Anthony Byrne, and he's saying the question of whoever taped this is a, quote, distraction, unquote. Well, it would be, except Anthony Byrne happens to be on Parliament's Intelligence and Security Committee as Deputy Chair, given access to confidential briefings and the like from intelligence services. The question does need to be asked here, Kieran, no matter how egregious Adem Somyurek's conduct, and it was a good story, let's face it, should Anthony Byrne remain on this Intelligence and Security Committee if he is endorsing secretly taping people? Now, another interesting piece of this puzzle, Kevin Rudd was on 60 Minutes talking on this matter, and it is known he is close to Anthony Albanese. Yet apparently sources close to Albanese say Rudd never told him the program was coming or what allegations were coming. Now, National Executive are expected to meet this afternoon and put Steve Bracks and Jenny Macklin into a review of the Victorian branch, similar to what Michael Lavarch did in New South Wales. There was a push on to intervene in the Victorian branch and have an administrator run it. But I'm told this morning, Kieran, the Victorian unions made it clear to the national right of the ALP that they did not support that strategy, and therefore we have the result that's soon to be announced, which is the Bracks-Macklin review instead, similar to what happened in New South Wales last year after the cash-in-bag scandal at IMPLICATED, with Michael Lavarch reviewing that branch. But I'm told Victorian unions, which would include the AWU that Bill Shorten's aligned with, objected to a suggestion of an administrator there. Let's have a listen to Stephen Conroy saying that the taping of this Adem Somyurek behaviour was a distraction in the affair, certainly not denying Anthony Byrne, who he'd spoken to, was involved. And then we'll have a listen to a Victorian Labor parliamentarian, Tim Richardson, who essentially says there needs to be an investigation into how these secret recordings occurred.
Well, firstly, it's not a crime. And the way that my understanding is the phone conversations recorded is not a crime. And having some experience in the Telecommunications Act, I can concur with those views. But I think it's a bit of a distraction by those who have been caught out. At the end of the day, the behaviour of key individuals was getting more and more out of control, more and more dangerous for the Labor Party. And I think ultimately the party will come through this in a better place.
It's greatly concerning some of the things that we saw with a federal office, no less, that was covertly recorded. We don't know who put those recordings in. We don't know what's been compromised. That's a great concern for our Commonwealth and our national security. That office obviously is a participant to the Joint Standing Committee of the Commonwealth Parliament oversighting national security. That committee's made a number of comments about sovereignty of Australia and its relationships with China. That's been well covered in the press. So the notion that there is an unknown COVID recording is a great concern on our democracy and on our sovereignty. And that needs to be investigated no less by the Australian Federal Police and, if it's a national security risk, ASIO.
He wants an ASIO investigation, no less. Now, it should be said that Tim Richardson is an ally of Adem Somyurek, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have a point, particularly when it comes to this Anthony Byrne's position as Deputy Chair of the Intelligence and Security Committee. Has anyone else who's come into his office been taped, for example? Going to take you now to the listening device legislation from 1999 in Victoria, which shows you this is legal, this sort of taping. It says effectively that you can tape a conversation if you're a party to the conversation. You don't have to ask permission. In other states, you do. Other than law enforcement exceptions, a person can only use a listening device to record a private conversation to which he or she is a party. So if you're not a party, if you just left the camera going in the office, KIERAN, you could be up for 2 years jail. But if you are, it's fine. Can't believe this. Other states, it's like you have to ask permission. I mean, as a journalist, I know that because that's the process that you undertake and you're taught to undertake.
But the suggestion that it's a distraction, I like Stephen Conroy, he's a regular on this show, he's our friend, but the suggestion that it's a distraction, who actually taped it, I don't think it stacks up, particularly when you're talking about an individual with access to the sort of information that Anthony Byrne does as deputy chair of the most powerful committee in this place. It's a committee that knows all the nation's secrets. He is very much a senior member of that committee, and the fact that he has got this Inspector Clouseau sort of, whether it's him or his office or whoever, it happened in his office, this, amateur investigation, whether it came from him or wherever, this looks quite inappropriate for a senior member of a security committee charged with such important information. To me, it looks inappropriate.
Certainly, and I'm not suggesting Anthony Byrne should face any action in terms of his time as an MP or anything of that nature. We saw the legislation there, clearly it's legal. But what I am suggesting is perhaps he should reconsider his future from that committee, indeed resign from that committee, unless he can give us a denial he was involved in this. Because I don't think it would sit well with security agencies, this sort of behaviour, when you're on this committee. By the way, if he was on any other committee, I'd probably say, OK, well, fair enough, whatever. But not this particular committee.
No, and it's like you said, who else has been taped when in that office? Tim Richardson, this Labor MP in Victoria. As you said, he might be aligned to Adem Somyurek, but it doesn't matter. It shows you that that view is held within the Labor Party, and I think certainly want an answer as to how all of this erupted in the electoral office of one of their own federal MPs, and not your everyday MP. It's not just a distraction, this has to be answered. Well,
the interesting thing is both the government and opposition conspicuous in their silence. Labor, Anthony Albanese's Labor, quite happy that Adem Somyurek's gone, so they're all right with that power broker who people say had control or was involved in an alliance of 2/3 of the branch, had too much power and they're gone. The government, it's a Labor scandal. Why knock the ability to present that scandal to the media? So they're staying silent on it. If it was against one of their MPs, they certainly wouldn't be silent on it, this kind of surveillance, I don't think.
Now,